Welcome back to this episode of the Wed Pro podcast. So lovely to have you all listening along with us today.
Yeah, it's a good topic today. We're going to be talking all things self-doubt. This kind of came about. We have been coaching some of our clients this week, and as we always do, we were talking about goal setting, and something that came up in kind of the goal setting activity that we did with one of the businesses that we coach was in terms of very much mindfulness around goal setting and blocks that can be put there. And then that got us thinking all about self-doubt and the doubt that we all put on ourselves at times in our business. And, you know, it's incredibly natural. It's actually like honed into us psychologically, and we can break that down. But today we wanted to chat all about self-doubt and the kind of things that we tell ourselves in terms of what we want to achieve. And sometimes we can stop ourselves achieving those things, can't we?
We can. And I think, you know, that comes from a number of places. So for me personally, I get quite a lot of self-doubt / imposter syndrome / kind of those thoughts of sometimes, am I like good enough, or, you know, those kinds of things. And that comes from, for me, a place of wanting to do the best job for everybody that kind of I work with. So it's kind of that thing of, okay, like I'm putting pressure on myself to do a good job when actually I'm doing a good job anyway. And it also, for me, I don't know, comes from seeing what others are doing and comparing myself. And I don't know if anyone can relate to that, but, you know, those things can kind of niggle away at you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is really kind of programmed innate to us that we kind of can focus on the negatives. I think our brains are kind of hardwired. Well, they are hardwired to have a negative bias in our brain, where we can kind of get into this overthinking situation. So, you know, as business owners, we're pushing ourselves constantly. We are, you know, might be launching new things or ideas, or going after better paid clients, or making changes in our business, no matter how big, how small, setting goals, no matter what size goals. And one of the things that kind of happens in terms of our mindset is we start to kind of overthink, don't we? And then when we overthink, we like procrastinate and we stagnate and we stop, and then they don't get achieved. So then when we break down what's actually kind of happening, it normally fits into 3 kind of sections. But the reason that we do this actually is really innate and primal in us. Like that negative bias in our brain is actually there to keep us safe. It's survival mode. Like, what threats are there? What could go wrong? How can I keep myself safe? But actually, in today's modern world, we find that a lot of that subconscious bias inside of our minds is things that are threats that we're actually creating in our own mind. What if I fail? What if nobody likes my stuff? You know, what if I let somebody down? Exactly what you kind of said. And we're focusing on the risk, and then we magnify it, and then we don't act on it. And it all kind of stems from like this thing of self-doubt, which we wanted to unpick apart and give you some kind of tips as to how you can kind of move yourself on to achieve what you want to achieve.
Because the end of the day, you can achieve whatever you want to achieve if you put your mind to it and you're in the right mindset, and you kind of can get rid of that self-doubt a little bit. I mean, a little bit of self-doubt is kind of always good, because, you know, it keeps you in check, you know, make sure you're doing the right things at the right time for the right types of people. But going back to what you said about, you know, we're always in our minds like picking apart the things that we maybe aren't so good at. I bet if we all sat and thought, or if I said to you all, tell me 3 things that you are good at, I bet you'd find it difficult. But if I said, tell me 3 things that you feel you're not so good at, or that kind of give you self-doubt, or for me anyway, I'd be able to reel off probably 10, not even 3. So it's about kind of flipping that on its head and giving yourself some credit for the amazingness that you do day in and day out.
I think quite often you would give people advice of things that you think would work well for other people, but for some reason or not, it's not going to work well for you. So you kind of don't take that own piece of advice. But, you know, we've got some kind of tips and ways for you to kind of recognize what section of self-doubt you fall in, because all of us have it. I mean, the definition of self-doubt simply is like a lack of conviction or confidence in your abilities. And I think especially in entrepreneurship or starting a business or business growth, it is incredibly natural to, at times in business, have some forms of self-doubt. And I was actually really kind of delving into this topic and listening to this topic and why it's manifesting in our minds and where does it come from. And, you know, in terms of, definitely we coach more and more businesses now, don't we? And different things pop up for different people. And in terms for us to be able to coach effectively, I was really diving into this topic and thinking, right, okay, how do we unpick that mindset and how do we break down those kind of barriers? So what we kind of feel is that it normally sits into 3 kind of areas. And let's see if we can kind of recognize where we are in each of these kind of areas. But what is important to recognize, and it is important to recognize when we have these feelings of self-doubt, because when we have them, we don't tend to take action. Like we procrastinate about it and we don't tend to take action. And for one reason or another, that thing then doesn't get achieved, which then demotivates us and then makes it harder to set goals in the future.
It's a cycle, isn't it? So we've got to start recognizing, because then we can break the cycle and move forward.
Okay, the first person in kind of the examples I'm going to give you is somebody that maybe has goals but doesn't really start them, or they don't know how to get started, where to start, what they're really wanting to achieve. And then the doubt kind of creeps in and it leads you to question whether you've made the right choice, leaves you to feel dissatisfied or unmotivated because you can't see yourself kind of moving towards that goal. And why this kind of happens is because perhaps you've got a lack of meaning around what it is that you're doing, a lack of meaning around your goal. Like perhaps you don't remind yourself enough about why you started, or what the impact on what your work is for you. And usually, you know, quite often as well, it comes up, doesn't it, Roxy, when we're talking about goal setting, people financially attach goals, like attach financial goals to what they want to do. And I do it in part of some of the goal making that I do. I set financial goals. But actually, when we focus on the financial goal, it's incredibly easy to become demotivated by that because you've got a tangent to measure. So it can be very easy to become demotivated if you don't hit that financial goal or you don't hit that number. Whereby if you flip it on its head and you think about the impact and what impact you want to put out into the world, like what the impact of your service is, what the impact of your business is, what you want your like business legacy to be. And as small businesses, we really struggle with this, don't we? Because we're not like, oh, you know, I'm going to save the world one wedding at a time. But actually, it's about the legacy of you having made a difference to couples' lives, to have brought, you know, an amazing service for them, to bring joy to people, whatever impact you most connect with. That's much better to focus on than just financially. So that's really true. To pull it back to kind of, and we say this, don't we, like a lot, like what's your why?
I was just going to say, and this ties in with going back to that business why, like why did you start your business? Like what were your goals? So yeah, it doesn't always have to be monetary. I personally struggle with money goals, and I know that you like to set them, don't you? I like to kind of do it in the way of things that I would like in the future, which obviously involves making more money and things like that. But I like to, I want to be able to provide this for my family in the future, and to do that, I obviously need to make more money, but I don't like that money pressure. Sometimes it's like, too much for me.
It just goes to show what kind of motivates different people and the impact on different people. And that brings me to the next point. If you're somebody that sets goals, but you never kind of achieve them, or you never kind of realize that you're ticking them off, you don't have a problem setting them at all. It's usually about the motivation. So, and with motivation actually, and I did a talk about this really early on in my business career about motivation, where I said actually, you know, motivation comes and goes. Like people's, you know, sometimes you can feel motivated, sometimes you can feel demotivated, but we still have to show up in business. You know, we've still got to get stuff done. the world doesn't stop, your business doesn't stop just because you're feeling a little bit demotivated today. Yes, there's times you can take some time off and, you know, you can fill your cup back up, but it's actually more about discipline and being able to be disciplined. So if you're somebody that is in this camp of people that, you know, you've got goals, but you don't really know how you get in there, or you're not really ticking them off, it's about being more disciplined and structured as well, and saying, you know, even though I didn't want to do that today, I did it. I'm focusing on the process rather than the progress of getting to that goal.
Yeah, I mean, so are these types of people, I take it, those that are, okay, they've got the goals, but they're not kind of almost like tracking where they are on them.
Yeah, it's like the discipline, and discipline's a really strong word, and some people will really be turned off by that, but think of it as in that's what's going to help you get to where you want to go to. So if you've got like these goals, but you're not really checking in on them, and it doesn't really matter whether you hit them or you don't want to hit them, but you know that they're in there somewhere in your mind,
floating around there,
it could be that there's a lack of meaning as to why, you know, you're not connecting with your goals, and self-doubt is creeping in because you don't really know why you're doing it for, or you're not connected to your goal. Or it could be about like it's not motivating you somehow, or you're just not motivated to complete it. And the thing about motivation is there's power actually in achieving something or doing something when you didn't want to do it, and focusing on that part, that even though you didn't want to do it, you know, get the books in order, or, you know, these things are the little pieces of the puzzle that build up your business and help you to hit those goals. So it's about making your goals about the process and the steps in between, and not about the progress. And one of the things in terms of how to move on from this point, if you are in a feeling of self-doubt and, you know, not really sure, you know, the person that we were coaching, they said, you know, I self-sabotage my goals. I can't get to, like, I never do them, I self-sabotage. And, you know, one of the things to do, this is really helpful actually, is to start a mind dump and just plop everything out, everything that's coming through your mind, put out on a piece of paper. And all words, like spend 10 minutes handwriting it out, not typing it. You get much more connection when you're handwriting. That's how we all learn to write. We didn't learn to write by typing. So you get much more connection with the thoughts of your brain when you're writing, and it's quite cathartic. And you just write out what's coming out for you, like anything in there in terms of your business, in terms of your goals, motivation, you know, your meanings, your reasons, and that. And then you want to allow yourself to become comfortable with the risks and the challenges, because that's one of the things that stops us achieving our goals, because, you know, our brains are saying, hello, risk, hello. So it's about actually becoming comfortable with stepping outside of your comfort zone and taking measured risks in order to kind of achieve that bigger picture. So circle the things on your mind map that are inside of your control, because there will be things on there that are not inside of your control. And we talk a lot about this, don't we? Like, what can we do today that's inside of our control? Or, you know, some things might come up that we actually, well, we can't respond to that client yet because they haven't got this and this in, or whatever it may be. So there will be things that come up in your mind that aren't inside of your control. We only want you to circle the things that are. And then you want to underline the things. Take a different color pen, make it all pretty. You want to underline the things that you are going to do. And then you're going to write them out by I will, and then write what it is that you're going to do. I will, and write what it is that you're going to do. And then it becomes a list rather than this thing, immeasurable thing that we're not connected with, that's so far in the future.
This is going to be great for those people, and even for me actually, because what tends to happen is when we, you know, start thinking about these things that we want to achieve, that we haven't achieved, that we've put off, it's just a vicious circle, and we squash it down, rather than leaning into it, we lean away from it. So this is kind of almost like exposing those inner, most deep kind of thoughts and feelings. And it is going to be so good to get that out your mind on the paper and actually face it, because then you can move forward. And 100%, once you've done this exercise, things will become a lot clearer, rather than a muddled kind of panic of goal setting that is in your mind.
And I think it's really important to acknowledge as well, the process is messy. Like, it doesn't have to be all straight lines and really clear in your mind. There's actually fun in taking messy, imperfect action that takes you closer to the goals. I find it really fun, like just going with it and seeing what happens. I've had this idea, let's just roll with it. And it doesn't have to be so in the box all of the time. So it's really important for you to not kind of feel so structured, and especially in this industry that's so creative, to just be able to just go with the flow and think, yes, there's power and there's progress in imperfect action.
We love it. Imperfect action, don't we?
Yeah. So the next one is treading water. So these people start lots of projects. They don't have a problem making goals at all. And they start lots of goals and lots of projects. And these people tend to be really passionate about self-development. So very aware about goal setting, can quite clearly say, this is what I want, don't have a problem with that. But they then take on so much that they physically cannot commit to everything that they're doing. So maybe they started a course and then another course comes up and I'll start that course. They get about 20% of the way through, or they start a book and then they never finish the book. I can be this kind of person sometimes. I have lots of books. I've got 2 books on the go at the minute that honestly I've been reading for over 12 months, both of them. I should definitely have finished them by now.
Let's call this person the magpie that has shiny object syndrome.
Yeah, for sure. And then that self-doubt kind of creeps in, as in, can I commit to all of this stuff? You can kind of start to get a little bit overwhelmed on everything that you're kind of trying to take on. And I've definitely had moments of feeling like this, where I'm like, I've got that project on the go, this on the go, and how, personal, really personal now. Like, we've started courses and got 3/4 of the way through courses and haven't finished them. Have business projects that were like, let's do that. That'll be really cool.
And it's really demotivating. The problem is when you've got that magpie kind of thing going on, you're like, a bit over here, we're doing it over there, spread yourself really thin, bits get done. But then when you then go back to it, you can sometimes feel a demotivation in even completing it, because maybe you've lost that kind of, that initial like zest that you had to start it, to get going with it. I can find that when I then go back, I think, I'm not really vibing this anymore. And then you start that self-doubt and second guessing yourself.
Because you feel unproductive. So you feel guilty that you've not finished it and you feel unproductive. And then you feel like you're somehow falling behind because, you've not achieved these things and ticked these things off. So if you're kind of in this space and thinking, I can resonate with that, it's about having an internal check and thinking, are these goals, is this thing aligned to what I want? So for stepping outside of your comfort zone, maybe some people say to us, I just have a block around social media. I have a block around saying my face on social media. But it's about then focusing on building an audience is aligned with what I want to do in my business. So, if I'm really uncomfortable doing it, how can I get around that? Or is it a mindset thing? Can I get somebody in to do it? Do I even need to show my face? But by building an audience on social media, I'm able to impact more people with the things that I do.
So what's really, really great about goal setting is each their own. Everybody can do it in their own way. There is no set way. Don't get hung up on, I've read someone's doing it this way, and the girls, Katie, Roxy, do it that way. You can do it in whichever way you want, and you can set them however big, however tiny you want. what I always find the most helpful is to think of that end result. Sometimes I don't like to call it a goal because my anxiety likes to make me feel like that's too pressury, but I just call it an end kind of result, and then work my way backwards and set tiny little stepping stones as to how I'm going to get there. Break it down into bite-sizable, achievable goals or steps that you need to do to get to where you want to be. And each time you hit those little steps or goals, have a little celebration, but be sure to keep checking in with yourself. Am I on track to achieve that goal? Do kind of like a little flow chart. Yes, great. No, why not? What can I do to improve that? What steps do I now need to take to kind of get back on track? It's just about discipline. And like you say, that word can seem quite harsh, but do we not have to be disciplined as business owners anyway?
Even in every area of our life, like what I always compare it to is like, you know, school run is non-negotiable. Like you're there every day at 9 o'clock, whatever's going on in your life, like you're at the school gates, you're there to pick your child up. So, you know, whether you're not feeling so good or you get somebody else to do it if you physically can't do it, but it gets done. And this is, I think, you know, one of the wonderful freedoms about running your own business is there's no boss on your case, or, you know, we have to have that internal discipline ourselves in order, you know, yes, a lot of what we want to do in business and a lot of your business should be all of the good stuff, you know, that you love running your business, that you do the business because you love to pull all of the weddings together or whatever it is that you particularly love about running your business. But there are always times that will be more challenging, or the stuff that you don't want to get done, whatever it is. I don't particularly enjoy like some of the admin side of my business, and sometimes I just have to get my head in it and I have to get it done. And, you know, yes, we can hire people at some points down the line to do that, but other days, you know, just got to get my head stuck in and get it done. And then I think, yes, I've got that done today. And exactly what we said before, like there is a good feeling attached to doing something that you didn't particularly want to get done and doing it well.
Tick, tick, boom. Every time I achieve a little goal, I'm like, happy dance, happy dance. Can we talk for a minute about kind of like self-talk? Because that can set you up either in a really good way or can really kind of hinder achieving your goals. It kind of comes with that self-doubt, negative, like trash talking yourself down inside your mind. Katie knows that I do this quite a lot, and I'm happy to say that it's
quite a lot. Let me just pause this on for you. You've done it recently quite a lot. Probably I would say the last few months. I remember seeing you. We went out shopping, and I was like, "My God, you are hard work today." It was your birthday.
It was my birthday, yeah. I remember it was Friday the 13th, and I was chuntering away like, I can't do this, and there's negative words coming out.
I was like, it's your birthday, like smile.
But this is something that goes hand in hand with kind of that self-doubt, and I have really I don't know if you've noticed, I would hope that you've noticed that I really try, even when I am in like the depths of like anxiety, feeling terrible, for every bad thought I think about myself, I tell myself the reasons why that's not true anymore. I'm like, no, Roxy, you are good at doing this because go and look at those reviews. And literally I direct myself and I change that narrative to like pep talk myself up inside my mind. And it really, really helps.
It does help. So your brain will focus on what you tell it to focus on. Our brains are really primal and actually quite intelligent when we break it down in terms of thought processes. So the more that you tell yourself something in your brain will believe it. And that's because your brain actually creates pathways to those thoughts because it thinks you will need them quicker. So if we compare this to a switchboard, really years and years ago, when you would dial an operator and, you know, I wasn't alive this, but then.
You now in the little wires in the little holes.
And you'd ring the operator and say, put me through to my mum. And the lady would take the wire and she'd connect you to your mum and you'd have a conversation with your mum. Now, if you're repetitively calling your mum, that operator is going to say, oh yeah, knows where the wire is and moves the wire over really quickly. That's how your brain works. So when you constantly, whether it's a true thing or not a true thing, and also a real memory or a false memory, If you replay that in your mind, your brain connects the wires quicker because it tells yourself that you need that knowledge faster and faster. But it happens the same, positively too. So you should counteract any of those negative little thoughts with 3 positive ones. And it doesn't have to be like you use that example and then you say, I give myself 3 reasons why that's untrue. It doesn't need to be reasons why it's not untrue, but it could just be 3 positive ones. So for example, like practicing gratitude or anything like that. So it could be, like these dark nights, I really hate these dark nights. However, it's lovely to be, in a warm house, and I like spending time inside with my family. The family are all home because, it's cold outside and they don't want to be outside. And I'm going to watch a lovely show on Netflix tonight, or use the excuse to make a nice dinner. And it's thinking up 3 positives when we have a negative thought, because then those pathways to the negative thoughts become less and less and less, and the pathways to the positive ones get quicker and quicker for our brain to find them.
And it is just literally brain training, and it's just, you have to keep doing it consistently. I've seen a difference within, I've been doing probably 3 weeks of it, and I really, even when I'm not feeling the best, it does pull me back around quite quickly.
Yeah, that's good. I think naturally, I don't actually really know why, but naturally I'm quite positive. I'm quite a positive person, and I actually drive people that know me wild, because I'm always the person that says, there's always something worse going on. Like, there's somebody else that's got it worse.
If I ever need a bit of wisdom in any moment, I'm like, Katie will help.
but I also drive people nuts, because my partner, for example, he's quite trained to be he calls it practical. He's quite a practical thinker, and sometimes he'll practically come up with quite negative solutions, and sometimes my response to that is, like, things are always okay in the end, or somebody's got it worse than we've got, or whatever challenge or whatever he might be facing.
Yeah.
And exactly what we said, a lot of the risks and a lot of the challenges, we're inventing them in our mind. Like,
we're telling ourselves, we are convincing ourselves.
Yeah, they haven't actually happened. What will happen if nobody likes my Instagram post? Well, the world isn't going to end. Like, we can archive it, we can try again tomorrow for a whole number of reasons that might not happen. Learn
every time things like this happen, we learn.
Yeah, and that's it. Okay, so how do we move on from these feelings and these self-doubts? Well, we've given you an idea for 2 of the people, and the third one we've left to last, because this is the one that I think we both resonate quite a lot with. I definitely resonate with this one the most. I was actually even chatting about it yesterday with my partner, not in terms of this, but I'll break the story down in a minute. The third one is about destination obsession. So it's the inability to keep still, and we're always setting goals. So you have got no problem with discipline. These people are really effectively disciplined, actually. You push yourself, you're interested in self-development, you want to push your business, you reach the goals, but then you immediately put another one in, or you move the goalpost when you're almost there, so that you never achieve the goal. And this is really common in the business space. And the reason why then self-doubt starts to creep in is because we never get that satisfaction of getting there. We're setting really high standards, which leads to chasing something that we then don't achieve, which then makes us become really self-critical. So it could be that you're busy getting loads and loads and loads of things done, but you're not actually getting anywhere meaningful. And quite often I will have this check with myself, because I'm like, busy.
Like chasing.
Yeah, or busy with like tasks that aren't moving the needle on the business, or aren't really, it's exactly the stuff that frustrates me in the business, actually. So, if I'm stuck on a task doing admin, or I'm stuck on a task in whatever capacity, it's all busy work that needs to be done, and yes, it's important, but it's not moving the needle forward on the business. And then the bigger
goal, working on or working in.
Yeah. And because you're not allowing yourself to ever get to that end point, you doubt the value that you bring because you're not getting there. Does that make sense?
That makes absolute total sense. Like the way when you were speaking then, I was kind of like thinking, and I was like quite visual with when you were speaking about, you know, having those goal posts and moving them along. It's almost like, when I say chasing, it's almost like you get in there and then all my life it's moving again. So it's almost like there's an urgency to get to the next thing. And actually you need to stop for a second and celebrate the achievement of the goal. Look at what you have kind of created, because we are quite guilty of this, because we're quite motivated people, aren't we, in our business? Like when we have an idea, we bang 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 bang, okay, we've hit that goal, then the next idea. But stop and look at what you have achieved. Look at what we've achieved. Like we've done a great thing over there, like that's working well. There's no need to kind of keep chasing everything in your business that kind of you plan out will get achieved. And when you get there, it is a great feeling.
I think it is about either moving those goalposts or just not, exactly what you said, and not acknowledging that kind of when you are there. I mean, you're disciplined, you've got all of the kind of the attributes that make a great business person. And quite often as well, these people are givers because they, you know, pour a lot into their business, or they pour a lot into their development, or a lot into what they're achieving, quite positive thinkers, etc. They kind of want to share that knowledge with other people as well. But what we need to realize is that actually being destination obsessed, that's what it's called, is not healthy, and actually can be really motivating to be goal focused. You need to kind of acknowledge that you also need to pause. So if we think of it like, it's not so good for yourself to not take any time off, right? We've got a certain amount of energy per day to give to everybody, every decision that we make, every conversation that we have, everything is consistently pouring a little bit of that energy out of that cup every single time. And if you never fill that cup back up, then you'll have an empty cup, and then you can't give to others, and then you doubt your worth again, and the whole thing kind of starts again with the creeping in of self-doubt. So in order to stop these kind of things happening, especially if you're this kind of central and focused, is first, like, stop that self-neglect, like putting yourself at the bottom of the pile all of the time, you know, so focused on goals, so focused on the impact that you're doing for other people, especially if it's for your family as well. If you're wanting to put goals in and your goals are very family orientated, you might feel a lot of pressure to kind of create a life for your family or bring in income for your family. But you need to carve out time for yourself and make that a goal.
Self-care, oh my life, it's so important. You are the engine that is running everything. So if you're not looking after that engine, it's gonna break. It's gonna break.
I think a lot of people in this kind of category see time off not as unproductive, because I don't see time off as unproductive at all. But I'm so focused on the stuff that needs to get done, I often don't feel like it's bad for me to get out the laptop on a Sunday afternoon if I've got a free hour, or, you know, stay on the laptop till 10 sometimes if I've got, because it needs to get done. I don't mind it. These things are good for many times in our business, many times in our life, but actually over and over and again, you know, your family are going to remember the times that you spend with you as a family, and not on the laptop or not at work constantly. So if you are somebody that consistently sets goals, doesn't achieves them, doesn't recognize that they've achieved them, puts the next goal in, chasing, it, firstly, you need to stop and recognize that that's not healthy. And it stems back from, actually, not so much of this is shaped on early in our life. So it's not just about our relationships that we have with our parents, but it's also about, like, the schools that we went to, the lessons that were taught to us in school, the education that you had, your early relationships with boyfriends, girlfriends, all shapes kind of how each one of these things, each one of these three ways that we kind of go on to achieve goals and set goals in our lives. But being able to stop and pause and say, you know, is this a healthy way? So I mentioned before that I kind of said something to my partner yesterday, and I said, quite often I'm a chronic overachiever, and I give a lot, and actually I'm the person that, someone's paid for our time for an hour and I'll give them almost 3, and constantly, aren't I? Like, or if I do something, it has to be the best of my abilities, and I can procrastinate over it forever because it's not quite perfect, and I sit in that cycle. And my partner doesn't see that as a problem. Like, he just thinks that, that's me, that I'm giving, that I'm good at my job and I'm sharing that knowledge, and that's what people, come to me for. And it's the same in my friendships and every aspect of my life, actually.
It is, yeah. I was just going to say, like, you are a kind of giver in all aspects, aren't you?
Yeah, he does actually. He would prefer for me to carve out more time for me and to say no to some people. But
I think in you being like that, then that opens up for people to expect that from you. And take without knowing it, because Katie, like but actually that eventually is not healthy, is it?
No, it can really drain the cup. And then kind of my acknowledgement in terms of not healthy was that I can chronically overperform. Like, I don't just want to get to the award ceremony, I want to win the whole thing, or I'm not just going to write like an article, I'm going to write a whole book. And I have to pause and think, is that over analyzing stuff? So for example, we can sometimes like put out a reel or put out a video that isn't quite perfect, but hey, you know what, it goes like absolutely viral and we get like 10,000, 15,000 views on it. Whereas by getting stuck in that kind of overachieving mind space where you don't want to put anything out because it's not quite perfect, you just overthink everything, and then it gets to a point exactly again that self-doubt creeps in, you haven't done anything, you then beat yourself up about it.
Yeah.
And today's episode is all about, right, which step do I fit into? What can I do to acknowledge what it is that I'm doing? Why am I not achieving my goals? Or how can I move my business on, even though sometimes I have feelings of self-doubt? And recognizing, go on. So I was going to say, recognizing whichever one you fall into, whether you fall into somebody that, is destination obsessed, or, magpie syndrome, and you're constantly starting and stopping new things and you don't tick off your goals that way, or you don't really set meaningful goals because you're not connected to them. It's then about just stopping and thinking, right, why am I like that? Okay, I'm like that for this reason. What can I do to combat that?
You get in that mode, it's like go, I've got to get this perfect, got to do that. I feel like I'm the opposite, whereas you like push forward, I like bury my head. Like, I'm like the opposite of, I think I'm kind of a number 1 on the goal scale, as well as like the destination obsession kind of person. I can either keep going, not celebrating the goals, or, pushing the goalpost further away, or I like frozen in fear of, I'm not going to set any goals at all, because like that's just going to open a can of worms. So then I'm the least productive.
How better can you I think that task of kind of really writing things down is really cathartic and helpful, because actually quite often, especially what you were saying in terms of our brains being wired to think negatively, and if you give your brain the time to think about those things, it's going to think about them more, because of the ways that our brains are wired scientifically that is what is happening. It's about, if you put it on paper, you can logically see, okay, what here can I control and what can I not control? So, I can control that, so I'm going to focus on that. And, writing things like, I will, do whatever it is, post 3 videos on social media this week. I will, do my accounting for this month or this week, or check my bank account today and see how much money I've made, or I will send my client forms out, or whatever it is, whatever you're wanting to do or focus, because it's not always about the progress, it's about the process as well. So the process of actually showing up, ticking off things, getting things done, and building that confidence up. Exactly what we said, like self-doubt simply is a lack of confidence. Like, it's a lack of confidence. And one of the biggest ways to get confident about something is to do things over and over and over again. Yeah. Your brain can just do them quickly and that it's going to be there, or that naturally you get better at them because you're doing them over and over.
So for me personally, I am a chronic overthinker, and I go through kind of like episodes when I'm in kind of that mode. And there's one thing I've learned that I carry forward with me when it happens again, when those thoughts and feelings come up, is that when you're actually started, it's completely fine, but it's the getting started. So if you can get past that little step and just, I always like vision it as me like kicking myself over that start line, like, come on, take that step. And then once you get started, you think, oh, okay, this isn't as bad as I thought. And then when you achieve it, oh my life, I always feel like a massive celebration. And I look back and I think, okay, you felt like this at the beginning, but look at what you've done. Doesn't matter how big, or I mean, I'm talking when I had terrible anxiety, taking steps to get up, get out of bed. So now I carry that forward into kind of my business role and think tiny steps forward, things get done.
No, that's really great. I think there is that moral of just start. Like, just start. Whether it's messy or it's unmessy, there's no straight line to like business success. And anybody tells you that there is, they are lying. Like, it goes up, it goes down. You have bad days, I have bad days, bad moments where sometimes I think, oh my gosh, I've got nothing done today, or none of the stuff that matters done today. And it can be really frustrating. However, when I've been kind of learning about all these different forms of motivation or self-doubt, or like you said, trash talk, or how we can kind of train our brains to be better focused or better at getting things done, I found some of these things to be really helpful. I'm a list person. I love my pen and paper. You're quite good at a list, aren't you?
I am. I've literally said today, like, I need more notepads. I've run out of notebooks at the moment. I'm not that many.
And just to kind of end, there is actually like evidence that our brains are hardwired to complete things. So if you're ever thinking, oh, I don't really know where to start, just start. Like, just start. We've gone all deep into, thoughts and how our brains are wired, and got quite deep today, haven't we?
I think now you guys know us even better now. We've gone in.
But, if in doubt, just start. Things will work out. Get a pen and paper, jot down some ideas. Listen back over this episode and think, okay, which person do I resonate most with? And then try out the tips for yourselves and just keep moving forward. You'll get there.
Forward. You will. And we are here to support you every step of the way. So keep popping back for when new podcast episodes are released. And if you have got a subject that you want us to cover, let us know. Get in touch.
We're so excited. We've got some really amazing guests coming up on the podcast.
We have. Yeah, I am excited.
So yeah, we'll see you on our next episode. Thanks for listening.
Take care. Bye.